Welcome back to Tales from the PowerAge, and tonight it's all about Monsters of Rock. Monsters of Rock 1990, taking us back. How many years is that? 33 years? It's a long time. I had to think about that for a minute. So, Whitesnake headlined, Aerosmith, Poison, Quireboys, Thunder, and we're going to tell you all about it. So, hi guys, how you doing?
Good evening.
G'day.
Good stuff. A lot had happened between the last Monsters of Rock in 1988 to this one in 1990. We touched on the tragedy in 88 and it didn't happen in 89. So I think we went to Bon Jovi and Skid Row and Europe in Milton Keynes as a replacement. But we were delighted to be back at Monsters of Rock in 90. And there were a couple of things worthy of mention. One, it was sunny, which was absolutely brilliant. And two, there was a campsite. But a campsite, we decided we were far too good to stay in. So, slightly different from a couple of years. We've gone from boys to men, and no reference to the band. But let's go around the lads and find out what had happened and how they got there and what that looked like. So, Jamo, I think you'd actually booked a hotel, hadn't you, this time?
Yeah, I was just doing the working out. This is my fifth Monsters of Rock, fifth Donington. I'm a 20-year-old now. I'm a veteran. As Dill said, we've grown up a bit now, kinda. Drinking culture happened a lot back in those days. We used to enjoy a drink. On a side, I'd started also buying cassettes. I had a car. We drove places. Didn't need lifts from my parents much anymore. So yeah, cassettes rather than vinyl. We thought there was four of us. We got together. Right, one of us was driving. We thought, hey, we don't want to be going in that non-campsite anymore, keeping in the back of cars and just on the floor generally. Let's do it in style. So we got a travel lodge. One of the guys that booked it, and he booked us a travel lodge. Us two guys in the back got a bit drunk. When we got there, he'd booked a travel lodge somewhere down the M5 in Somerset. So when we turned up at the travel lodge, there was no room. At the time, they were like, we're not booked in here. He had to negotiate us to get a room. He managed to get us one, which, considering Monsters of Rock was just down the road, was pretty impressive. So well done for us. However, we had only budgeted for a hotel room for two, figuring we'd be okay. We'd be able to sneak in through the window. As luck would have it, it was a ground floor room. So yes, two of the guys went in the front door, and myself and one of the other guys, we went in through the window. So happy days, we were sorted, and we were all ready the night before Monsters of Rock. We went there the night before, got ourselves settled, and all ready for the gigs the next day. So a little bit different.
Awesome. Gav, you went up on the day?
Yeah, I drove up on the day. Yeah, nothing remarkable. Just with a lady friend, if I recall.
And Gaps, the ladies' man. Obviously, there was a whole bunch of ladies stuff going on back in these days. So I don't think you made this.
I didn't rock up to this one. A, it wasn't metal enough for me. And B, I was with a certain lady who I just couldn't get enough of, so I kind of missed this one. But do remember listening to at least Thunder on Radio 1, probably while I was at work.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, I went it with a mate from uni, Tommy. So if you're watching, hi mate, hope you're good. We travelled up from Birmingham on the train, and we'd actually bought the gallon petrol cans, because they were the only thing you could take your beer in with. You get 8 pints in there. Suffice to say, we had a fair few over the day, and it was beautiful. We met with a load of our crew that we knew from Birmingham, and it was good. It was good fun. And we, like Jamo, we ended up staying in a hotel after the gig as well. So a little bit about that later. So if we go to the next slide, Gav, that would be cool. So there's the programme, the ticket. I think you've got a copy of the ticket there, Gav.
Yes, sir.
And
there she is.
No surprise there.
There's the programme. A couple of things worthy of note in the programme. Certainly on the intro at the beginning, he says there's a reference to the tragedy in '88, and also lots of references to help, to Samaritans, to welfare services, etc., etc. special thanks to, I'm not going to read all of them, but Sharon Osbourne and Peter Mensch, who you probably all know. Peter Mensch was Metallica and AC/DC's manager, and Sharon Osbourne's Ozzy's wife, amongst other things.
Well done.
Other things. And
randomly sponsored by a shower company.
yeah, that got Triton showers. I thought that as well.
No one knows why.
He must have liked metal.
They're trying to say we're smelly.
Yeah. Now, one thing that's amazing on the map, not just the fact that they limited the tickets to that year, which isn't on the map, but there's actually a campsite on the map. First time there'd been a campsite, we all decided to stay in a hotel.
Yeah.
Well, camp when you can't camp, and when you can camp, we're not going to bother.
You couldn't make. They're not telling us what to do.
No, exactly. So, anything else on the program, Gav? You want to cover off, or?
No, just the usual format. I noticed it's more sponsored than normal.
Yeah.
It's Hard and Heavy video collection sponsorship. Yeah. You've got the shower guys, and there's a lot of adverts for all the bands, like records and stuff like that. It's mostly adverts, actually.
Okay, excellent. So we can go to
the other thing that we'd noticed also was that was the ticket price. It had, we'd been away for a year, and 88 it was a £16.50 ticket. But in the 2 years, the 1 year it had been away, so in 2 years it had gone up almost 20%. It had gone up to £20 plus booking fee. Quite an increase, but bearing in mind the capacity was a set capacity, perhaps they thought, hey, let's squeeze the price up a bit. And they had some big names. So at the time, I didn't hear anyone balk at the price of £20. There were a couple of biggies on there with Whitesnake and Aerosmith, to be honest, weren't there? Big bands. So, yeah.
You make a really good point on the price of the ticket, but I don't know if you remember that far back. I think interest rates were running at about 15%. For any of the financiers in there who are interested in that, we're running really high. So maybe that had something to do with it. You're right about the price of the ticket going a lot. But a couple of things there that are probably worthy of mention. We'll touch on a little bit later. Aerosmith had toured Pump at the back end of the year before, and that had been really, really well received. But that was the first time they'd been back in the UK since 1977, since they played a slot at Reading Festival. They hardly played the UK. And this was the first week that Poison had actually been in the UK as well. So actually, when you think about it, there was probably quite an attraction for the MTV watcher of the time, because these guys were on MTV constantly on repeat. So let's move on to the next bit, Gav. You can cover off the shirt and the...
Yeah, well, I guess another new thing, they're obviously tasked with being more organised this year based on the, disasters of years gone by. And one of the things was a very strict number of tickets. And did we say it was 74,000?
75,000, I think, sell out.
So they sold out. So they did a load of press ads saying don't turn up on the day because it's sold out. So that was great for the organisers, but obviously probably a headache, because I guess a lot of people just did turn up. So if you did and you got in, let us know.
Going back to those years before, I think we've mentioned on previous pods, you could just rock up at the gig with a tenner to the security guard and you're in. So they were trying to stop that, I think, as well.
Even so, also, there was a ticket office, as you would recall before that. There was always a ticket office. It was always £1 or £1.50 less to get it in advance. Otherwise, you'd get a ticket.
That's true. Yeah.
A lot of the older generation that didn't always buy tickets and just rock up. People like my older brother, they just, let's go. They just rock up. Yeah, how do I get a ticket? Yeah, so they took the responsible route in getting those adverts out, because they'd have had to pay. They'd have had to pay for those slots in the press. That must have hurt people looking at them.
Yeah,
Osbournes of this world spending money.
It's a cool thing to see, though, isn't it? It looks cool.
Yeah, awesome. And the T-shirt, Gav, celebrating the 10-year anniversary.
Yes, yeah. Talking of not looking cool, you get a cake on your metal T-shirt.
It's on the back though, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we universally like the front, don't we?
It's a good T-shirt.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, cool.
I believe that design was by Mark Wilkinson, the same guy who does Marillion and Maiden and Priest. There you go.
So, do you want to touch on the merch sheet, Gav?
Yeah, you guys can just have a look at it. It's pretty self-explanatory stuff. You know, there's a black and a white, and kind of a very strange photo of Dave Coverdale T-shirt.
Yeah, a really awful T-shirt. Yeah,
they might have been left with a
how
few
many of
of
them they
those.
sold?
Yeah, clean your car with that. And you've got
You're literally said that.
Poor
About
old Dave.
someone's watching this, and that's their pride and joy.
well, it probably is. It's probably worth a couple £100 now.
Rita from Manchester, who's mad for DC for David Coverdale. She's there right now. So Rita, if you could subscribe to the channel first of all, if you haven't already, you probably have, but if you haven't already, subscribe, and then can you put us a picture in the comments of your David Coverdale T-shirt? It's a lovely picture. That'd be great.
How much were the T-shirts, Gav? Just out of interest.
I don't know. You got the merch sheet.
No, let's have a look.
I didn't have a merch sheet in my program for some reason.
They were £12. That was a lot of money, don't you know?
Well, if you consider how much it is for a T-shirt now and the price of a ticket, that's a lot compared to the price of a ticket, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll take it crazy now.
Right. So, before I come back to you, Gav, Gaps, you'd seen the band that preceded the Mighty Thunder. Well, I think a few of you had.
Yeah, me and Gav went to Reading Rock in 1987. To one of the bands we went to see was Terraplane, the forerunner of Thunder. So yeah, they were great, fantastic. It's one of the biggest regrets I have of not actually going to this gig is been out to see Thunder, and everything you hear about it afterwards. I mean, Danny Bowes. I mean, he actually stole the audience, didn't he? Apparently, they went down probably the best of any band, certainly any opening band ever.
That's it.
Donington, arguably.
Yeah,
I mean, dare I say, he was. I mean, so if I should say, it was Freddie Mercury-esque the way he eased onto that stage.
Yeah,
he was rocking everyone, rocked everyone else. So, it was
the thing, as we alluded to with the Terraplane thing, they were already they had been in a band that had toured a lot, played a lot. You know, they were already a fully formed unit, just directed in the wrong way to be a pop band by the previous record company. So they had fire in their bellies when that didn't work, because they knew it didn't work, because they didn't want to do that. So they said, you know, the drummer, the singer, and the guitarist songwriter all wanted to be a rock band. So when they changed footing, went to EMI, changed the name to Thunder, they were going to be a rock band. And this exemplifies everything about that attitude. They were brilliant. They came out fully formed as a brilliant rock band. And Danny's confidence with the crowd, as you said, it was so infectious. And it in the crowd it was infectious too, because they were a support band, but the crowd were going mad. They had such support. So it just made it even better. And the songs are great anyway. That first album just rocks. You know, everything about it's great. They released it, I think, on various compilations, but you can still watch it on YouTube. And I still do. I go back to it and watch it regularly because it's just so good.
If you look at the bottom picture with just Danny on pointed out the crowd, look at all the little stuff there in the background. That was never there. Those shops or beer tents or whatever they were never there before that. So this was probably the first, you could argue, commercial Donington. Yeah. And to your point, Gaps, you're right. That's a much bigger crowd than you get for the first band in Download now, but there were only 5 bands that day, so you probably wanted to get your £20 worth, didn't you? And so
that's the great thing about the one day, well curated, you know, list of bands. It made it so special.
For this situation, Terraplane, I was a big fan of Terraplane. Gavin and I both, and Gaps, big fan of Terraplane. I bought a double single of theirs way before this, probably 86-ish, maybe 87.
Yeah.
But they looked so different. So them coming out with this as a debut album, you forget they had been around the block. I mean, as I said, things had changed. Me and my mates, we had a liquid. I asked Naz, one of our friends, I said, can you just remind me what happened this day? He said, yeah, we had a liquid breakfast. We drank all the beer from the night before that was left over. So we drank it on the way to here. And then, of course, they were selling alcohol inside. And we'd grown past that stage of taking a big warm bottle in. So we bought 4 pints each when we walked in, ready to get ready for Thunder. Drank them, had a rest, on they came. I don't know if any of you other guys, Gap, you weren't there, but you'd have loved this. Thunder famously had some fans, some really lovely, attractive ladies, and they called themselves the T-Birds, if I remember. Do you remember them, Gav? Or Dill, you know?
Yeah.
They had, and that was fantastic because back in the day, the vast majority of the audience were blokes, weren't they? Back this time, it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was definitely a sea change that year.
Like our audience.
Well,
Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, it was mostly it was a lot of guys, but yeah, you had. I remember for Thunder, you had these young ladies walking down to the front in these fantastic pink outfits, short skirts and lovely tops, all the way to the front, and it just spelled out to me that actually there was a lot more. It was a lot more chilled. There was a lot more space than there obviously had been for '88, which is another pod that we touched on, where there were 100 and whatever thousand there. So the actual vibe, I remember from this stage, starting from even from this stage, it was a lot more chilled.
Yeah. Okay. And the weather was good.
Jam, you reminded me, he did do the Freddie Mercury call and response thing, didn't he?
There was a
For the
song
radio. Yeah, he did it for the radio. Like,
Yeah.
I think he said like "Hello, Tommy," or I don't know, whatever it was.
Yes.
I think it was live on Radio 1.
Yeah.
So I can't remember what he said. I should know, but
No, but he
Yeah.
had us. He had us in the.
I remember him saying is, "Can you help me? Can you help me?" He was saying, and everyone helped him.
And there's the vinyl. And the album was produced by
Andy Taylor from Duran
That's
Duran.
right, of Duran Duran fame. So, and it's a great album, by the way. So if you've not got it, go and get
It
it.
is great. Yeah, I got it on CD. I was buying everything on CD at the time.
Oh, well, that was bought. That's the original copy, first press.
Well done.
Anyway, next slide. So, Quireboys. I loved the Quireboys. I thought they were fantastic. I'd seen them lots of times at the Marquee. I'd met them lots of times.
Same.
They had really started to build a good fan base, not just in London, but around the UK. I'd seen them a few times in Birmingham. I moved up to uni in Birmingham, saw the Irish Centre, and had a chat with them about seeing them in London and in Birmingham. So
Ginger was in the band.
Yes, he was.
Ginger Wildheart was in the band for the first two
I got a few of their 12 inches signed at the Marquee in Birmingham.
Nice.
That's the album that came out. The album, by the way, again, a little bit of what you fancy. It's bloody brilliant. It's an absolutely fantastic. I felt so proud this was a British band because we were absolutely diluted with American imports, American bands. You know, even at the Marquee as well at the time, there were just so many playing there all the time. And this just really stood up. And to my mind, that still stands up today as a really brilliant album.
I agree.
Sounds really, really good. So
they didn't try and be too rocky, did they? They were very Stonesy, and
yeah,
you know, that was a surprise because it appealed to rockers, but it was true to their sound.
Yeah. Well, they played 15 songs on the day. I don't remember the sound being amazing. I'm not going to lie. I'm a big lover of the Quireboys. Still go and see them now. But I think having to follow Thunder, who were absolute hard rock, classic rock band. So the Thunder were probably more in the shadows of Free, whereas you could argue the Quireboys were more the faces, I suppose. And with that sort of crowd, it really rocked when Thunder played. So look, they were okay. Played loads of songs, 15 on the day. But yeah, I can't really remember much more than that. I think it's because I've seen them so many times.
I think it's quite noticeable just how big they were. They had a hit album. They had 4 hit singles, something like that, on top of the pops all the time.
Yeah,
so they were. That's where they should have been on the bill. But you look at it with today's eyes, it's like, wow, they were really high on the bill because they never really rose to the full potential, I guess. But yeah, they deserved to be there at the time. If you did all the metrics as record sales and single sales, they deserve to be there.
Yeah,
it was off the back of because that was a big record. Everyone had it. They weren't my regular band, but the songs hold up. And as you say, even now, it doesn't sound. We speak sometimes about different records and how they can sound dated. That doesn't sound dated. It's a really good listen.
No, it's good.
Yeah. Nigel Mogg in the band as well. So
Phil's nephew.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, he's clearly related. They're related, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. That's UFO, by the way.
Phil Mogg.
Yeah. So
North London's finest, as you.
That's right. North London's finest. They are. Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's move on to Poison. Now, what was interesting to Poison, I was trying to wrap my brains thinking, was this the first gig they ever played in the UK? because they'd never toured here. They were due to tour with Def Leppard and pulled out lastminute.com.
Right.
So we were quite excited to see them in the arena, and they never played. They'd done a signing at Shades. That was an old rock, metal, glam record store that used to be just off Wardour Street in Soho, which was amazing. St Mary's Court, was it?
St Anne's Court.
St Anne's Court, down the stairs. It was amazing. What a shot that was. And they'd done a signing in there, but they'd never really played in the UK. And of course, they were on MTV all the time. So, Jan, what do you remember about Poison on that day?
I liked them a lot. See, Poison were the object of almost hatred by a lot of regular metalheads, and there you go. A lot of the rock community would see Poison as unskinny bop type. Every rose has its thorn, watered down American drivel, for want of a better phrase. I loved them. Look, they had the jazzy hair, they had the makeup and everything, but I really liked them. Look what the Cat Dragged In. I thought it was a brilliant record. Really great record. And this is a really good set list. Fallen Angel, I loved. It's one of my favourite tunes. I've been slamming it out constantly. So, yeah, it wasn't my normal kind of thing. But that was the first time I'd seen them. But I think, as you said, they were supposed to be supporting Def Leppard, didn't. So, yeah, I just remember them being really good. And they went down really well. I was worried. I'm not worried, but I thought, bear in mind, I was consuming vast amounts of alcohol at the time. But I didn't know how they'd go down. But I recall them going down really well. And it's sounding.
I think they did. They're a good party band. A good friend of ours who is on the road a lot and has been for a long time with many bands. Said to me earlier in the week that CC DeVille had actually been sick on his cabinets, apparently. Now, I don't remember that on the day. I don't remember anything from it. But apparently he was touring with someone 2 weeks later, and they were happily showing him CC's puke on the cabinet. So, CC, if you're watching this, if you could come,
lovely,
brilliant. So,
yeah, I just remember being disappointed with the single that preceded this gig, the Unskinny Bop, and I'm even more disappointed when they played it and it sounded really weak ass. It wasn't good. But I love the first album and some of the kind of rocky stuff that they do. But yeah, I didn't think that was a strong single. So yeah, that put me off. But I remember it being worse than it was because I've gone back and watched it and listened to it and read some reviews, and they went down a storm. So I think it was Unskinny Bop that sullied it for me.
I think Gav had a mindset on that day that he wasn't going to like Poison. For whatever reason, that maybe if they
I did own some of their stuff, but I guess also we just had a couple of big British bands.
Yeah.
And I thought, why are these guys higher? They don't deserve to be higher. They're crap.
Yeah.
They weren't.
And by the way, this wasn't their first gig in the UK because they played 2 gigs that week at Nottingham Rock City and the Marquee a few days before. So these were the first times they actually hit the UK shores live that week. So, yeah, look, it's all right. It's good. Party band, I guess, and good to be there. So,
the ladies.
Yeah, there was quite a few for the ladies, if we're honest, on this. On this bit. So, you'd have loved it, Cap. Next band was Aerosmith. So Aerosmith had toured in '89 on the back of the album Pump, which was the follow-up to Permanent Vacation. So there's the vinyl. I bought that on the day it came out. And I remember getting tickets, which these guys were talking to you about, to see Aerosmith at Hammersmith Odeon, which Julie did, and it was amazing. It blew me away. But I remember the guys that I went with talking about, they never come Aerosmith, they've never been on tour. And I didn't realise quite how big the gap had been until we've been preparing for this pod. So they played, the last time Aerosmith had played before late '89 in the UK was 1977 at Reading Festival. It's amazing on Draw the Line. So they just only really ever toured the States. They've done a couple of shows outside of the States, but up until that point, it just mainly been the States. So it was a real. And this was
based on demand, to be honest, because those later they didn't sell over here. They're not remembered to not have been selling over here, but it was the reinvention, those last 2 albums, that did it over here.
Yeah, Permanent Vacation and Pump. So again, they were massive on MTV, weren't they, for those? So I think Gaps and Jam, you tried to go and see Aerosmith in the fall, as they would say, in Boston.
Well, I was a massive. I really liked the Permanent Vacation record. I bought it in spite of their 70s. I'm not a great fan of 70s, that sort of stuff. I like Sweet Emotion and that, but it was like, because wasn't that on Axe Attack?
It was on Axe Attack, yeah. Good call. That's the only Aerosmith song I knew.
Yeah, I knew Aerosmith as, that's a good song. And that anything else I listened to was like, yeah. Then Permanent Vacation came out, and I bought it when it came out. I just did. I must have heard a song from TV on the Tommy Dance, and I loved it. And I played that to pieces. I loved that. So yeah, we got tickets for Hammersmith Amio to see Aerosmith. Didn't we, Gaps? Me and you.
We did indeed, absolutely. I much preferred this album to Permanent Vacation, but yeah, me and Jan, we got tickets to the for the Pump tour at Hammersmith. We used to go to Hammersmith all the time back in the day. And in those days, you could drive your Mini up, which I had. And you could drive it, and you could park under the under the flyover, right outside the venue. So we did that, and we walked up. We rocked up to go into the gig, and while we were going in, we were just talking to each other, and we thought, "Do we actually want to be here?" I know it sounds absolutely mental, but we decided that we didn't. And we sold our tickets for about maybe £3 each to a tout, and got back in the Mini and drove back to our local pub and got absolutely hammered, and won the raffle, which was 4 cans of Heineken Export. So we did all right. And yeah, but we didn't see Aerosmith though.
To put it into context, we said there was a change in our lifestyle, wasn't there? We were 20-year-old lads who we were very social, always out and about. Just the two of us. We weren't a beat. There's just 2 of us went to this gig. So the fact we got there in his Mini and we're about to go in the seat and should we go out on the? Yeah, let's sell our tickets. Let's get back. Let's get out on the. Let's go out for the night. Let's have a beer. I think it was a Thursday or something. Let's get out. Let's have a beer, and we had a cracking night. So yeah, one of those gigs. When you look back on your memories,
I really wish I'd have gone now. Absolutely, I really wish I'd have gone.
At the time, I was fine, but yeah, one of those ones. We didn't quite make it across the line.
No.
I'm sure we've all got those sorts of drinking stories. If anyone wants to share any of their gigs they didn't quite make it to,
you've got another one for another pod, haven't you?
That'd be great.
Okay, Gav, do you remember anything from the set on the day?
Yeah, I thought they were good actually. I really enjoyed this era, and like Jam, I was never into them in the 70s at all. And even when later on I could pick up the records really cheap because I worked for the record company, and I still couldn't get into them, even when they did the box sets and stuff like that. But I loved the more commercial version of it, I guess. You know, the Geffen years rather than the Columbia years. And yeah, I thought they were great. And obviously the crowd went mental when Jimmy Page came out at the end. Yeah. And I think they loved it as much as the crowd did and Jimmy did, because they are obviously massive Zeppelin fans. That was a really good way of ending it. I remember that. Yeah. And setting themselves up for a future headline.
Yeah, agreed. They've been back many times after that, not just to Donington, but also to Download as well. So yeah, I remember it being really good. I remember the Sunshine beating down Sweet Emotion in Sunshine on a Saturday afternoon. It doesn't get any better than that. It's absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I love them. I'd seen them a few times in the year before, and unlike these boys who got to the entrance and went home, I saw the gig at Hammersmith. Steve Tyler used to do the backflips then, which was she wouldn't be doing now, which was incredible. They're just a great live rock band, really brilliant. I think they're on the farewell tour in the States now. They've not announced anything over here, so whether they make it onto the Download bill again for next year, who knows? But there's a lot of unease about the ticket prices, I think, in the States, although I don't think they're having any problem shifting them all. So watch this space. Maybe they'll be back next year. But look, great album.
Ticket prices for everything in the States are ridiculous at the moment.
Yeah.
Really expensive.
So yeah, if you're in the States, let us know how you're navigating through that at the moment. Good. Okay, that's Aerosmith. Let's move on to the headline for the day. I've got my Whitesnake t-shirt on. We all love a bit of Whitesnake. There's a nice Whitesnake program behind me somewhere there. Look.
We all loved a bit of Whitesnake.
Oh, we all loved a bit of Whitesnake. And for those of you, I don't know if you've all seen this, and thanks to Tony Jebson for getting involved with us earlier in the week. But there was a video in '83. Toby, I think it was his first Donington in '83, which Whitesnake had headlined. It was the old blues version. Mickey Moody, Colin Bomber. Rosie Powell, etc., John Lord. I mean, what
Mel Galley as well.
Yeah, Mel Galley. If you watch that video, it's absolutely fantastic. It's just brilliant, I think, in my mind. There's no stage effects. There's no nonsense going on. There's just a great R&B band playing brilliant songs, and they really honed that band. And then it all changed very quickly after that. And then this is what we had in 1990, which was quite a big change in a small amount of years. Different band, different personnel, and different music, really, for honest. So, Gav, I know you're a massive Whitesnake fan.
Yeah, massive old Whitesnake fan. And I know this is a cliche, and I'm going to be the bad guy, but I'm not even adverse to the 1987 era, when it still had a semblance of a band. You know, Johnny Sykes on the album, and then even the touring band after that, perfectly palatable. But for some reason, when we hit the Slip of the Tongue album and tour, it went off the rails for me. It didn't really seem like it was a band anymore. It was more of a kind of a corporate contractual obligation type side of things. A little bit when you see the Eagles, they have to do 2 songs from every member's solo career. It felt like this. Everyone had to have a really long solo. Everybody had to well, in the case of Steve Vai, who has nothing to do with Whitesnake in any other way other than he's got good hair and he's a brilliant player. It's not he doesn't fit, and he has 2 songs. And I don't think the quality of the songs on the latest album was particularly good either. And I loved Whitesnake, and I still do love Whitesnake, but I've tried watching this on the DVD, and it doesn't work for me. It doesn't gel together. It's just a bunch of songs and a bunch of players. So yeah, sorry if that upsets anyone, but no, not my thing.
Jam?
It's around this time, the festival, I was never that keen on. I was always hoping I wouldn't really have to be paying too much attention for the headliner, because you're knackered by the end of a day of properly giving it large with all the bands. I always wanted to move back and just watch. Now, in '88 with Maiden did that. They were amazing. I don't remember these being anything other than decent, but then they were quite loud and they were quite metal. I was never a bluesy Whitesnake fan, so I wasn't fussed. I loved Slide It In, the record, especially the second mix of it. I loved Slide It In, and I loved 1987. I loved Steve Vai, the Dave Lee Roth connotations and everything. I thought it was brilliant. So I didn't really have an issue with the band on the day. I was quite a long way back, and I was taken in the evening. I'd had an amazing day. And at the time, I remember these not spoiling my day. Do you know what I mean? But I wasn't as invested as you, Gav. I wasn't a massive...
Yeah, no, they didn't spoil my day. I was just disappointed.
No, exactly. But I wasn't... I had low expectations. I'm not being funny.
You were quite refreshed, though, by this point, weren't you, Stuart?
Yeah, I would have been very refreshed. I was refreshed to the limit. But a great day. And they were pounding. I do remember just being at the band. And like, Is This Love? It's an amazing. I love that song. It's a beautiful song. But when you're at the Monsters of Rock festival, and you've got Is This Love piling out, there was a change. There were a lot more ladies there than usual, and brought together, I'm sure, by Whitesnake. And it was. I remember thinking that was a bit ironic, a bit weird. However, you had Tommy Aldridge. Tommy Aldridge adding to the beauty of the song by hitting the drums.
Or detracting.
Hard as he possibly could throughout that beautiful love song.
There's no doubting he's a brilliant drummer, but he beats the living crap out of everything, and sometimes that's great, and sometimes it's probably a bit too much.
But no, I recall a lot bit that Crying in the Rain.
Very restrained, Gav.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Crying in the Rain was a long old song, but yeah, there were lots of solos, lots going on, but sat back, it was fine for me.
I was much further back. I think it was much further back for all of the bands. Actually, I think moving on from '88, with lots of things had changed. The setup was different. You can see with the picture with Danny Bowes earlier that there was stuff going on. There were shops. There were burger bars
around the perimeter.
Yeah, there was a bit of commerciality about it. It was a different setup. You're right in terms of the makeup of people. Well, there probably were people with makeup on for the first time. Ironically, I know we've touched on that before, but the makeup of the crowd in terms of the demographic was very different to how it'd been in the past. So things were definitely changing. I do remember standing there watching Whitesnake, and probably a bit like you, Gav. It didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't really connect with the show as much as I'd hoped or I thought I would. There was nothing there that upset me. I didn't come away going, that was terrible. There was nothing wrong with the show, but I didn't connect with it in the way that I wanted to connect with it.
Yeah,
I'd seen Whitesnake before. I didn't go to '83. That's just an emotionally, amazingly charged and brilliant set, and I was probably disappointed that the band, in my opinion, didn't get to that level of performance that they'd managed to deliver in '83. But it was a different band, right? It was a different setup and a different scenario. As hard as Dave tried to, I think, bring it all together and connect with the crowd, etc. I think it was they were mercenaries, weren't they? I suppose the band, and maybe that showed a little bit too much on the day for me. So I'm probably in agreement with you, Gav. It was fine, but could have been much better potentially. Yeah,
and you look at the songs and you think, actually, most of them are blooming great.
Yeah,
for some reason, just doesn't cut it.
But I did go and see Whitesnake last year on their farewell tour and managed to get a nice little sign poster. So Dave, if you're watching, we all love you still.
Yeah, we love him. Yeah.
Just to clarify, we saw them, Gav. I've seen them many times after this headliner at Donington. I've seen.
We saw them at Hammersmith where they filmed the video, and it was brilliant.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. And had the guitars were taken by
Red
Beach. Yeah.
And he was awesome. We've seen different lineups since then that clicked way better and it's been really good. And I've seen them at Wembley Arena. They
brought it back big time.
I'd like to say still going strong, but that was the farewell tour that ended a little bit early. But Dave, we still follow you on Twitter. We think you're great.
He's a funny man.
He is. One thing we didn't show was the pump program, which was from the tour, which we alluded to. But there's a nice little flyer as well, which I only found today. I've forgotten I even had it. Which is quite cool, isn't it? So anyway, you want some? No, there isn't. There's, it's really weird. In the middle, it's
We'll lose that then.
Yeah, probably. It's tracing paper with the lyrics.
Nerd alert. That's it. Nerd alert. That's what we want.
Look at the size of it. It's like a KISS program. This is so big. There you go. Anyway, who survived Donington then? Shall we go on to the next slide?
Not that fella.
Hang on a minute.
If you're watching this, please let us know you're okay.
So, Gab, you drove back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I seem to remember it was on the radio when I was driving back. I don't know if
he's brilliant. So it was quite
the delay thing or whatever, but yeah.
Cool. And Jam, how did it go in the hotel?
Clueless, but I know that I've been told. Yeah, we made it our way back to the Travel Lodge. They were fantastic, and we had to go in the window, so that would have hurt, but not that evening because I was. I'd prepared myself to be able to spend another night with three other guys in the Travel Lodge room. It was all good.
So what Jamie hadn't realised, or any of these guys at that point, that nobody's got a clue which room you're going into or whether you've got two room passes. So they were probably just thinking, they know we are, they know what room we're in. They wouldn't have had a clue. You could have all just gone in together. So anyway,
the thing is, from what you guys have been saying about the gig, you just alludes to that on the Kerrang cover, doesn't it? We survived Donington 90, but did Whitesnake ?
Yeah, very interested.
Yeah, I think there were some less than complimentary reviews about it, and I think even Coverdale said fairly immediately afterwards that it wasn't the best thing he'd ever done, because he so wanted to make it work and wanted it to be the best day ever, and he was so invested in making the bill British and all that stuff that I think he thought that maybe, I might be wrong, but I think he thought that he may have under-delivered against his normal standards.
Pretty good picture of Danny Don Bose with the lady on the other cover, though. That's quite nice, isn't it?
And Whitesnake, you could argue, took a big old gap after this, took a big hiatus.
Yeah.
And he went kind of solo, didn't he? He did the stuff with Vandenberg, acoustic stuff.
Yeah.
And then crawled his way back.
Which I really liked. That was really good, yeah.
Well, it's the opposite to the bombast of this, isn't it? And the screaming and the swearing, to a more kind of reserved version of it. But all is forgiven, obviously.
So I survived with Tom. We went back to the hotel with a couple of friends of ours and had a great time. In our hotel, ironically, was Wolfsbane, Tattooed Love Boys, and all the liggers, as they used to call them in Kerrang.
Liggers,
yeah, that's what they used to do. Remember? But I got to that point, as we were saying, we'd grown up a lot in those couple of years, had really long hair at the time, and thought I was a rock star and far more important than anyone else in that hotel at the time. So
you probably were.
You're probably right. Anyway, enough of that one. There is some follow-up stuff from this, so if you're interested, Gav, I think you've got some info on the...
Just the one, actually, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, this came out recently. I don't know. Well, I say recently, 2011. Probably had a good polish up and ready to go. But obviously, Dave's working his way through his entire catalogue and releasing compilations and box sets and retrospectives, and this was part of that. So, if anybody wants to take a look, it's all there in probably Blu-ray or maybe DVD. But
probably needs a bit of cash, so support him.
You can see it on YouTube. There are clips on YouTube, not brilliant ones, but you can make your own mind up and see what you think. But if you want to get some classic Whitesnake, I'd really encourage you to watch the 83 version, which was called Commandos, ironically.
And that's probably on YouTube too, because it was a video, and they tend to just rip them across, don't they?
That's right. Okay, good. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Monsters of Rock 1990. We certainly did. We can still remember quite a bit of it, unbelievably. Good job, Gappy wasn't there, because as normal, he probably wouldn't have remembered that much. So that gives these guys more of a pedestal to talk about all the things they remember from the day. So if you enjoyed that, and I'm sure you did, follow us on Facebook at Tales from the PowerAge. You can join in the chat on Twitter on Tales from the PowerAge at TTFTPR. And
Twitter's now called X, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh gosh, yeah, it's not anymore.
I knew about it. I didn't change it.
On X, and thanks to all the people that engage with us regularly through Twitter. It's
Absolutely,
great.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
Great to have the chat with you guys, and thanks to Toby Jepson,
Tony,
Glenn Hughes as well, and Collateral, of course, are at the local band.
Oh yeah.
So thanks for getting involved and liking some of our posts. We really appreciate it. You can join us online at www.talesfromthepowerage.com. And if you want merch, you can get that from Redbubble. And there's some really great stuff. Gav's got one on there. Look at that. It's awesome. So please like, subscribe, and ring the bell. It helps with our algorithms, apparently. So that would be great if you could ring the bell.
Yeah, subscribe and ring the bell is there.
I really appreciate it.
Smash that bell.
Ring the bell.
We beg of you.
Ring the bell. Anyway, on that note, hope you enjoyed that. We'll speak to you soon. See you later, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.